Hello everyone, GadgetGirlKylie here, and today I'm joined by my lovely boyfriend.
Hello!
Chris, known as Gadgetguychris, and we're going to be discussing our very raw initial thoughts of the PlayStation VR and the headset itself.
Yeah, I mean, consider this like an early in-progress review. As we've said, sort of off camera, basically it's the thing of we've had it now about 24 hours, so
yeah.
We've played a few different types of experiences. Not by any means is this meant to be a definitive review at this stage. That, well, to use your phrase, that comes later. So there will be an updated, possibly longer video, probably in the next few weeks, once we've got to grips with it more. But just bear in mind, this is like our first impressions after the first day or so.
Yeah, and the games that we've played, we will briefly touch on in this video, but also I will put them down below in the description so you can get an idea of what experiences we have actually gone through.
Yeah. I mean, the first thing that we wanted to talk about was the level of immersion within there. You'll have heard, if you've watched the other videos that have been on the channel, us talk about that, the wow factor, for want of a better term. Really, the videos that you see don't do it justice. They can't. It's such a different experience watching something on a TV screen as opposed to a VR unit that's strapped to your face. I mean, that probably would be the overriding factor, the overriding opinion, thoughts on the subject would be that real level of immersion. There are a few sticking points technically which we'll move on to later when we're discussing perhaps the individual games, we'll say, about, because by no means is this a perfect tech, not at all, but it is something that certainly we have never experienced anything like it before. We've never played the Vive, we've never played the Oculus Rift, so this is our first high-end VR experience.
Well, it's kind of good that we've been recording together, because when I've been using the headset or Chris has been using the headset, it is interesting because we both played Ocean Descent and we both played the Shark one, and you know, Chris played it first and I was like, it was his reactions basically, and it just doesn't seem that big to me. Yeah, it looked big, but when it's strapped onto your face and you're seeing the shark in front of you, it looks huge, and that just adds so much more immersion and, well, intensity, really.
Well, I think that's the thing, like, we both knew it wasn't real, but there were points in that, most specifically with the shark one, where we both sort of moved back. You know, I think in mine, I sort of, you won't have seen it on the video, went to kick where the shark had come underneath.
Oh, God, don't do that!
So I think from that point of view, that level of immersion is the game changer. I think everything else hopefully will fall in line, be it in terms of a revised headset further down the line, or alternatively, you know, better optimized software. But as I say, we'll talk about that momentarily. I think the thing, whilst we're talking about the hardware itself, the headset, yesterday I was having a few issues with it pinching on the bridge of my nose and pushing my glasses in. Thankfully today, a few little tweaks with the adjustments made a big difference and I didn't have that issue, and it is a really comfy headset. I mean, you won't be able to see too much on the webcam, but if you make sure that these bits are blocking the light out from underneath, these ones here, that they're blocking the light out from underneath, that definitely gives you a much more immersive experience. And, you know, in terms of it sitting around so that it blocks out any ambient light, which is the issue that perhaps you might find with 3D specs if you've still got a 3D TV at home, is that, you know, you have to have the surrounding setup, it needs to be a black room. This, it doesn't at all.
I would say as well, going back to what you said about wearing glasses with this, it is comfy with glasses, but just when you put it on, make sure you're not tightening it too much, because that's going to force your glasses obviously pressed up against your face, which, as Chris said, you get the pinching on your nose, and especially for the ladies, it's not so good, because I want to talk about this now. if you are a beautiful lady watching this and you like wearing makeup, then just be aware that it is going to get makeup on it. You probably can't see here, but it has ended up getting... I'm tilting that the wrong way.
You're pointing towards the monitor.
Yeah, it's got some makeup on it here, and also it will get some stuff on the lenses, so I do recommend cleaning it regularly and just bearing that in mind if you're going to be wearing it when you're wearing makeup. I also found that because I had it on a bit too tight, I think, and I was wearing my glasses, that some of my mascara ended up getting stuck to the lenses of my glasses because obviously the headset was pushing back on them. So just bear in mind that if you are wearing glasses, don't put it on your head as tight. No. That's what I would say.
No, I mean, I think it is the thing of, making sure that you get a comfy fit. We haven't used it for a prolonged period of time because after every video we've had to stop recording, so there's been that natural break there. It will be interesting as time goes on and hopefully get the chance to give it a go in longer bursts to see how we get on with that. I mean, that sort of brings us on to the next point that we wanted to talk about. I've seen a number of reviews and people giving feedback and talking about when you have lateral motion either left to right or right to left within a game that made them feel sick, and quite a few people had mentioned most specifically with that the Luge and Driveclub. So I did have a go with both of those off camera to see if I could kind of induce the motion sickness. What I would say is with the Luge, it's not so much the moving left to right, it's if you hit the side and the camera becomes very jolted that doesn't track your head. That was the bit that I found perhaps a bit disconcerting. And more broadly with the Luge, I think maybe for future revisions of the headset, some sort of haptic feedback within there would be beneficial, so that when you bash the side, it's not just the jar of the camera. I mean, arguably I'd like that reduced, and some sort of vibrational force feedback I feel would be more useful to that. For that Driveclub, again, it was not going around corners, that I didn't have a problem with at all, but when I clipped a corner and say the car went like that was when it was the very fast camera. Whereas with the Luge and the normal head movements that you would use in order to control the way that your player moves left to right, I didn't have a problem with that at all.
See, I don't know how I'm going to cope with that yet, because I haven't played the Luge, I haven't played Driveclub VR. Like, I've only played that's kind of similar, Until Dawn, Rush of Blood, but it doesn't have like fast corners. It's more going up and down. But I didn't feel sick or anything from that, so that's a good thing. But obviously everyone's different, so I would say if you are prone to motion sickness, take more regular breaks.
Well, definitely. I mean, again, I think to sort of touch back on Driveclub, a lot of people talking about there being a visual downgrade compared to the vanilla PS4 game. Definitely true. Definitely true. I mean, there's no getting away from that. The resolution alone feels a lot lower. Obviously, there's going to be trade-offs to get that frame rate high enough for it to be viable as a VR option. What I'm hopeful for moving forward, and this is similar, dependent upon the type of game that you're playing, but Driveclub, because I've played the 2D version of that, the non-VR version, so much that I can talk in detail. It's great, you're looking in the car, the cockpit view, which is not how I would normally play a driving game. Sacrilege, always play it third person behind, find it far easier. Never been a fan of cockpit, and certainly not bonnet cam, but it's nice where you do have that sense of feeling like you are in a high-end car, where you can look around left to right and you see a little computer and the details on the dash. I mean, what I'm hoping for with Pro when that comes out next month is that we do see a bump in resolution. I don't believe, certainly in Driveclub's case, I don't believe that that's rendering at native resolution. It definitely looks a lot lower res than that, the draw distance, etc. So I'm hopeful with Pro that even if it doesn't up the frame rate, because I didn't have a problem with the frame rate, I'm hoping that it increases the visual fidelity, because really, in terms of graphically, Until Dawn, more accomplished, but is an on-rail shooter, and I think that it's sort of picking your poison, really, that if you go in expecting that you're going to get something like GTA 5 at console settings in VR, you're going to be disappointed. And to be honest, I think the sense of immersion that comes from it kind of makes up for the loss in visual fidelity.
Well, I was talking about that earlier. When you first start wearing the headset, I feel like you do notice the loss in quality more, the blurriness, the jaggy edges, but as time goes on, it is like you do get used to it and you get more immersed. And touching on Until Dawn Rush of Blood, I would say that the horror genre is going to do really well on this, because that's definitely one of the most intense experiences that I've had, is playing Until Dawn Rush of Blood on the VR.
Which, when you think about it, it's a ghost train. That's what it is. It's a ghost train, and I don't think that would have a fraction of the impact with the jump scares just watching it in 2D. I mean, we will do some coverage of the Resi 7 kitchen demo. I, like Kylie says, I definitely think that horror and the ability that with a horror game you can look away, whereas with this
there's no escape.
Again, I think that in terms of our sense of immersion, because we've done them for recordings and we've been talking to one another, that I think that for a general consumer, nice set of headphones, I mean the headphones that came with it were okay, a nice set of headphones, you are going to block out the world, and it is going to be a very immersive experience, definitely.
Just make sure you don't try and kick a shark if you've got something by your feet.
Especially not Kylie's expensive PC.
Yeah, or push the chair back and be concerned that the wire's going to pull the PS4 off the shelf.
I had no concerns. I was lost in an underwater kingdom.
I was very concerned for the safety of my PS4.
I mean, the other experiences that you had today in terms of Invasion and Allumette were one of the things that I think where VR has promise, perhaps with people who wouldn't necessarily want to play a game, but the ocean dive and these VR experiences,
like movie type things.
You know, definitely something that get your friends to try them, that they're not necessarily going to be wanting to dick about with the Move controllers or anything like that. Get them in something where their main role is just to observe. Get them trying it, definitely, because I think that really is potentially the biggest game changer, is experiences like that. We've not tried 360 videos as yet. That's something that we'll have to get downloading some of them and see what we think in terms of what they're like.
Well, that's something I just really want to stress, guys, is if you're unsure about VR, try and find a local shop that's doing a demo there or something, because it's just one of those things that you need to experience for yourself. The videos don't give a true representation, because obviously you're not wearing the headset, and, you know, everyone's going to feel differently about it. So if you put off from buying one, because it is expensive, let's face it. I mean, it's a nice bit of kit. I'm not saying it's not worth the money, but it is expensive to just go out on a whim and buy it if you're worried about motion sickness, or is it comfy, is it going to sit well on my face, is it going to, you know, hurt me if I'm wearing glasses. So just go out and just have fun and, you know, go and test it.
Well, I know Sony's doing, near where we live in Manchester, weirdly, after release, there's an event for 2 or 3 days in Manchester where you can go and try it, and they've kind of done a tour around the UK. There was one in Sheffield, I think, about the week before launch. So if you can get to something like that, I don't know what the situation is in countries outside of the UK, whether your local game stores are going to have a demo unit, but I do think, you know, I will definitely agree with you there that it is something that you do need to try. Seeing one eye's worth dewarped on a screen makes it look worse visually than it is.
And it doesn't give you the true sense of scale.
Well, no, because you were saying with Invasion, the bunny seemed as big as you were.
Massive
which
to me
doesn't come
with the VR headset.
Which doesn't come across at all.
And it was the same when you were playing Ocean Descent.
With the
and
ray.
you were reacting to the ray or reacting to the shark. And to me, viewing on the screen, separately, yes, it did look big, but then when I played it myself,
Yeah.
it looks so much bigger,
Yeah.
and that just adds to the intensity of it and does make you react more.
Well, I was surprised by how much, considering I'd seen parts of the shark encounter before. You know, so I had some idea. I'd done the ocean dive the evening before, which is just kind of quite limited. I don't know whether you can leave that running. Ideally, that would be nice, as if you could have some sort of dive simulator, similar to the aquarium videos that you can get, you know, for your TV, as more of a relaxing experience. But yeah, it did surprise me how much I reacted to it. I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah. Something else I want to touch on, guys, is the Allumette, or Allumette, however you say it, game I played. Was the first standing up VR experience that I've had. The characters themselves were a little bit blurry, but the environment was really crisp. But when I stood back a bit more, the characters got more crisp. So I do think it's a case of working out the best position with the VR.
Yeah.
I do think distance is important with some experiences. Also, I don't think I would like to stand up for long periods of time with a VR headset on, to be fair.
Well, I think it's also the thing of, we had to position you in order to be recorded on the webcam.
Yeah.
If you'd have just been playing that in your room, not thinking about YouTube at all, then you would have had a lot more freedom to sort of feel that you could move around, because you weren't having to be lined up within a certain box. So I can see where that potentially would be something that we need to try more. I mean, all the others suggest that you sit down and, you know, seem to work a-okay. I suppose it is software dependent, really, and I guess that would be the takeaway that I would have overall from VR is, good piece of kit, let's have a real good amount of software. These bite-sized experiences are great at this early stage, but I think if it's ever going to gain any traction, there needs to be a substantial number of full game experiences. A man cannot live on VR worlds alone.
I don't think I could sit down and play VR for like a few days in a row or something. Like, obviously I've had to do it for my channel and wanted to do it for my channel for you guys, but there was something I did want to mention, was when I was playing that Invasion. After a few hours of playing today, I was playing that experience and I had like a little pain in my right eye, and then I did actually shed a single lonely tear down my face. I don't know what that was all about. I don't know if it's because I was playing with the VR too much during the day, although we were taking breaks, there were short breaks in between, so I would say that probably we should have took more breaks.
Well, yes
maybe.
and no. I mean, everybody seems to say that you've got to kind of build up a tolerance to it, and obviously you're never going to build up a tolerance if you don't use it. But that ties in with what I'd wanted to talk about, that we did have a bit of a play around with the cinematic mode last night.
Yeah.
Fired up a Blu-ray. What I would say with that is, it's an interesting idea. The large screen is definitely too large. You're going to be moving your head around left and right all the time. Medium is probably the best compromise in terms of giving you a sense of scale. But, and there's a very big but here, Blu-rays look like DVDs projected using this system, which stands to reason. The whole panel for the two eyes is 1080p, so, and a Blu-ray is 1080p just on its own without having to simulate any kind of screen. That is it. I don't know as I would necessarily want to watch a film on that, because I've got a nice big TV, I've got a surround sound system.
Both got nice TVs now.
Steady on, still got a bigger TV. And I've got 3D now. So yeah, I think
I've got 4K.
Well, no, you've got 4K TV and that's it. But I think that is something that might be the killer app for some people, is that cinematic mode. You can play games, as various people have discovered. You can plug numerous things into the HDMI and play on a simulated cinema screen. Interesting, maybe in the future with higher res panels in the VR headsets, that might be more of a viable option, but for me it's a bit of a novelty really at this point.
I don't know if I could sit there and watch a whole film with the headset on, to be honest. I think I would prefer the short experiences with the games.
Right.
But yeah.
Well, I think that's everything that we wanted to cover in the video. You know,
no, there was something else I want to talk
Sorry.
about as well, streaming. Because I know some of you guys are going to ask me if I'm going to live stream PlayStation VR, but to be honest, I don't think it's suited well because, well, the main thing is I'm not going to be able to pay attention to the chat, and yes, I could bring Chris in to read the comments out to me, but then that's going to ruin the immersion because I'm trying to move around and pay attention at the same time. I think it's going to be very difficult to reply to live comments. And the other thing I want to mention is a lot of YouTubers have tried to live stream with the PlayStation VR with the PS4 camera. Now, because obviously it uses the PS4 camera to track when you're trying to live stream at the same time, that can cause issues. So I would say that if I was ever going to do it, I'd have to do it like the face cam separately with my camera that I'm using now, the Logitech C920. I'm not ruling out streaming, I just don't think it's very good for streaming because the whole point of streaming is to interact with the audience, the live interaction. How am I going to do that with the big VR headset on? You know, I just think it's better in video format, and maybe on the PS4 Pro you can live stream directly through it with the PlayStation 4 camera and it will be better performance. I don't know.
I'd be very doubtful.
Yeah.
I don't really see that is something that the Pro will bring at all. I just
the
think
camera's
the camera,
same.
the new VR camera is
yeah.
exactly the same in a different case. So I think ultimately it doesn't necessarily lend itself well to streaming, purely and simply because the interaction that you've seen between Kylie and I, if I was having to read out all the comments, that would suffer.
Yeah, it would. Right, guys, well, I think that's about it.
Yep.
I'm sure there's things we missed or things we might want to talk about in a future video.
Yep.
I hope you've enjoyed this. This has been a very raw review, impressions of the PlayStation VR. This is the first time we've done something like this together. We've only wrote down bullet points, you know, and stuff like that. This has just been a really casual, spur of the moment thing.
Yeah.
So hopefully you've enjoyed it. If you would like to see more stuff like this in the future, then please comment down below, give it that thumbs up, and also please share your PlayStation VR experiences with us down below. If you've had any issues, your likes, your dislikes, your criticisms about it, and we'll get back to you.
Yeah.
We want that engagement with you. And if you do have any questions for us about the PlayStation VR that we didn't answer in this, or you know, anything like that, then again comment, and we would love to interact with you and try to answer those questions to the best of our ability.
Yep.
So yeah, that's it, guys. Chris has now become real to my subs. At last, he's no longer a myth because he is physically here on camera. No one can deny it now. So thank you very much for joining me. I actually really love doing this with you on my channel. So steady on now. We don't
love
doing this with you on my channel, babe. I love it.
Calm yourself. But anyway, that's everything that we wanted to cover. So thanks for watching the video, and we'll catch you on the flip side.
Bye.